Director Meggs,
Here.
Director Silla,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Here.
Director Gaffney,
Here.
Director Borstein.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and with that, I'm going to adjourn to closed session. Okay, I'm going to reconvene the open session, and I'm going to report that the closed session resulted in the Board of Directors directing our delegates to the Central Marin Sanitation District.
We'll do that in the open session.
We're in open session.
No, but we have an agenda item on that.
No, I'm reporting what we did on a closed session. We took action.
No, I believe we're going to do that in the open session
Okay.
item on the same sheet.
Okay. All right. Fine. I would ask to move agenda item 12 to the beginning right now before public comment. Of course, public will be allowed to comment on that if they wish. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? So Mary and Tom, thank you. So let's bring up item 12, please.
All right. Thank you, President Kelly and members of the board. Item 12, at the request of SRSD and CMSA, there is a proposed management operations services agreement between SRSD and CMSA. And the staff report lays out a chronology of events that really began in May of 2024 when CMSA received a letter from SRSD requesting consideration of a service agreement between them, quote, integrating SRSD into CMSA. And so there have been several milestones that are laid out in the staff report. And the purpose of this item, which I'll draw your attention to attachments to the item, which there is a draft operation services agreement that's not dated, but since the board packet was published, other versions have been produced, considered at the San Rafael Sanitation District hearing, and some recommended changes by SRSD were made at that point. And that another version was circulated as recently as yesterday, January 20th. And so we made the board members aware via electronic mail, the latest version and some potential comments from a legal standpoint on that. So that's in your possession. But with that said, the substance of the agreement is more or less similar and is adequate information for you to consider this agreement and provide comments and direction to the RVSD appointed commissioners to the CMSA commission, which really is the purpose of this item tonight, because the contract may be considered as soon as the next CMSA regularly scheduled meeting on February 10th. And so I want to make sure we had the opportunity for the board members to discuss in open session how they may direct their commissioners on the CMSA commission to vote on this proposed contract. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to the board. Any questions?
Steve.
And Felicia is here to answer questions. She's been present at many of the ad hoc committee meetings on this subject over at CMSA.
I see that we have 4 people on with us. Is it possible to know who they are so we can know who our audience is?
Michael Colantuno and Paul Causey.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, who wants to start? Michael?
I'm
You're gonna wait.
listening for now.
Tom, do you want to go?
Well, of course, excuse me, I've been on the ad hoc committee at Central Marin, and I've worked now. We've scrambled for almost a year, or not, maybe a little, I don't know exactly how long, but many reviews. And what we've developed is a very complicated contract that tries to fit a square peg in a round hole, in my opinion. And I've voiced many concerns about this one. I think I think to sum it up, we could talk about a lot of things, but um, we had a study by uh, independent consultants regarding the arrangement in general, and the firm of RSG made 6 recommendations. And at a presentation to Sanitary District Number 2, the general manager, I guess he was asked, have you complied with all 6 of these recommendations, or he volunteered? I don't remember. But he said, well, we've complied with 4. We haven't complied with governance. And that's been a real bugaboo for me, because what this relationship or proposed contract does is have one manager reporting to 2 districts. And that's a managerial impossibility, and it's never been solved. That's exactly what is happening. And the other one is transparency. And I guess they could argue, well, the development of this contract has been transparent, but all the reasons and backgrounds behind it have not been transparent. And it's not going to be at all transparent how it's going to work. Are we subsidizing San Rafael or not? And I think it's a lot more subtle than anybody thinks. I think there's indirect costs. There's whose employees are accruing, unfunded pension liabilities. There's all kinds of complexities. And what it does is it greatly distorts our JPA, because we formed a JPA to be a treatment JPA. That's worked pretty well at that. That's it. We are all receiving essentially similar services. And now one of the agencies wants to add another entirely different operation, which actually CMSA has very little or no experience running collection systems. And so we're, our joint powers agency is, on the one hand, running a treatment plant, a plant, that would cost maybe $300 million to replace. It's a big operation. And now they're going to take on an entirely different function, and not uniformly. If we were all getting collection, well, then we could work it out. But I think with just one, it's an impossibility. So that's.
You want to go? Do you want?
Sure. I mean, I'll just add in that this is in effect a consolidation between SRSD and CMSA, but it doesn't make sense because it's lopsided. I understand from watching the meeting that Kate Collins spoke at the Corte Madera City Council about basically this being a road to consolidation, but we can't do it piecemeal like this. And having been at the first ad hoc committee meeting and seeing how long the document was there, and now seeing how long the document before us is, obviously there's been some recognition that this is a very complex thing that they're trying to get done. And it would only work if we really all felt great about it and had the goodwill of all the participants. And it simply doesn't, because I believe it's unworkable. So, I don't think it comes as any surprise to anybody that I don't favor this. I think it's particularly remarkable that there are being changes made at the last minute. And apparently with not all the legal representatives of all the parties aware of the changes until they, get extra drafts. So even if I were to support it, it wouldn't be supported in this current climate where, drafts are being floated around, and I'm not sure whether there's an indemnification clause that we could support, or a reasonable or not a reasonable. So I think it's premature at the very, very best. We've heard about this for a long time. It's been many years since we learned that SRSD was looking, because they were having trouble keeping employees based on the economic setup of how they can pay their employees as city employees that they just weren't able to keep people because they're not able to pay them as much as independent collection systems. That's the problem they set out to solve. That's not in any of the final written findings. So we know that's what they want to solve. I can't imagine that it's not going to have implications for CMSA as a whole, of which we are a big financial partner. So many concerns, unsurprisingly.
Pam?
Good evening. My concern initially tonight was about leadership. And as I said, like, who's running the show? I feel like we go in one direction and then we're yanked in a different direction. There's meetings that we're not invited to at times, or who the reps should be going to. And to me, it's just automatic mistrust. In this climate, trust is everything. And we have been through some trust issues many years ago. So I'm very concerned that that is sort of coming out on the table. The other issues that I wanted to bring up was the transparency issue, what I just sort of talked about, but it has to be clear. I mean, clarity in this kind of business, and what we're trying to do is bring agencies together. The transparency just has to be super clean. Especially we are represented, here for the people. And if we are going to govern, we have to govern in a way that everybody understands what's happening, what's going to happen, and what are the potential risks. And let's see. So in our discussion tonight on the 12 on page 56, there's 5 points that have been sort of pulled to look at discussion. And one is distortion of interagency relationships, financial risk, liability and indemnity issues, increased costs due to higher labor expenses, no benefit to Corte Madera or Ross Valley rate.
Microphone. That comes and goes.
Oh, really? Okay.
I know.
No benefit to Corte Madera or Ross Valley ratepayers. So these kinds of things just need to be taken and divided up and get some leadership here and go back to the table and work on it more. I'm not against consolidation at all. I've been here since 2010. So I learned a little something.
Okay.
And policymaking is slow and painful. Just remember that.
Okay, thank you. I was quoted in the front page article in the Marin IJ. So you said you wanted to wait. Okay.
I'm done waiting.
Okay.
You can be a waiter.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right.
When I first arrived here, like Pam, many, many years ago, I've said openly and publicly for years, I think consolidation is a great idea, and I think we should talk about it and work on it and see what are the mechanisms that might make that happen. I have brought it up during my time at CMSA many times to have Jason say to us in public many times, it's not up to him. If you guys are interested, you get your individual members, Santerfell, RVSD, and Corte Madera to get together with your individual boards and discuss it and come up with the possibilities. And you come to me and you present it to me and tell me what to do. So that hasn't happened. Santerfell went directly to Jason and they discussed this long before the letter from Mayor Kate to the board saying, can Jason please come over and play a little bit? I think it was, it had already, the work had been done. Before we were allowed to be the chair of the commission over there, I sat with Mary Beth Bushy outside Andy's grocery store. And she said the number one most important thing to her is that we work on full consolidation. was very clear what she was talking about. When we purchased this building, we talked about, we didn't know when, we didn't know how, but one of the reasons for purchasing this building was that we could eventually be a home for a fully consolidated, it wouldn't be a JPA anymore, sanitary district, the Central Marin Sanitary District, with a fully elected board from all over Santa Fe, all over Ross Valley and Corte Madera. Again, don't know how that mechanism could occur, but Jason made it very clear. Start talking about it. And those talks, to Pam's transparency issue, never happened. And Paul was standing with me outside that CS2 meeting when Mayor Collins said to me, I have never heard the word consolidation brought up. So again, it's just not a true statement. And I believe that what has happened now with this coming up in the last couple of years is that it's become clear to me as a board member is that this is something that we should be talking about. And if we're going to, do whatever is going to, it should be ultimately a full consolidation. And in the meantime, maybe we can work with Santa Fe and they can move out of public works. And we've talked to them and lots of things we can do to do a functional consolidation in the meantime, while discussing a full consolidation with Corte Madera and with Santa Fe as equal partners in this whole thing. So I in a slight discussion with Eli Beckman, who's the representative from Corte Madera, he said, well, that's what he wants. And he never saw that as being an option. So I still think the great work that's been done to show, how the mechanisms all work here with this Santa Fe and CMSA contract, but it's not water under the bridge. It can all be used, and we should all start to really think about how we're going to make this work. And then we don't need to have all the legal stuff anymore. Let's do the legal stuff and find out what is it going to take to do a full-on consolidation and make it work, not for our few years that all of us have left here, but for the next 100 years that we bought this building, and make it work for everybody, which is then good for everybody. I mean, it says here, that this agreement is not good for RVSD. It says it's not good for CS2. Well, let's do something that's good for everybody. Let's make it, good for the environment for the entire region. Let's make it good for the finances for the entire region. If we all become one set of employees, that makes the whole Santa Fe issue about not paying their people the same rate that, our people are being paid, makes that go away. There'll be a new set of problems, I'm sure, but it makes all of the problems that this contract causes with governance and all that just go away. Let's work and make the objective to full on consolidation. Let's figure out what it takes to do it and make it happen. And we certainly have the capabilities to work on that here. We have the facilities, we have the management team, and we can do it.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I made some notes earlier today, so I want to kind of go through them. I was quoted on a front page article in the Marin IJ on April 23rd, 2018. The current board president of Sanitary District Number 1, Doug Kelly, said, I absolutely support consolidation. I'm willing to work with my colleagues in the other districts to get this accomplished. I feel stronger than ever that this is the right thing to do. Best to serve the ratepayers of all three jurisdictions. During the September 2017 meeting of Central Marin Sanitation District, the Ross Valley Sanitary District was asking to be allowed to rent some space on CMSA grounds. A relatively minor request. We paid for all the infrastructure that's over there, by the way. The representative on CMSA from San Rafael Sanitary instantly informed the two RVSD reps, I must say in a rather indignant tone, in her exact words, RVSD couldn't be on both sides of the transaction. The two RVSD reps then recused themselves. Yet that very rep from San Rafael has no such feeling regarding this plan, which would put CMSA upside down. I strongly believe that the representatives of the San Rafael Sanitary District, elected or appointed, have an obvious conflict of interest and cannot vote on this issue. They have in the past, and I pointed out to the then chair of the commission, Eli Beckman, that they were unable to vote. The chair allowed the vote to stand, but I don't believe that will pass legal review. Dean Giovanni of Central Marin Sanitary District pointed out one time that I brought in the lawyers, and I replied that I intended to keep them in the room. He will find that I keep my word. The chair allowed that vote. It should be noted that I pointed out the infrastructure at CMS. It was paid for by the ratepayers of Ross Valley, and if it's utilized, we'd like compensation for that. This is an imbalance in the JPA. It's not why it was formed. It's not how it was formed. And that is noted in the report from RSG Solutions, introduces a structural and operational changes that require careful evaluation to support alignment with JPA member interest and long-term service objections. Well, it doesn't align with our interests at all. I want to say I'm very proud of the work that Jason Dow and the entire team do at the treatment plant. But that's exactly what it is, a treatment plant. It's not a collection agency, and to suddenly begin a new life at this age is a little league forced error. We think CMSA needs to stay in its lane. We're proud to be one of the most respected collection agencies in the nation. We've been awarded first place for excellence in the Redwood Empire District 3 of the last 6 years, and 1 year we didn't even apply. We were awarded first place for all collection agencies for our size for the entire state of California. And that same year, we came in second place for transparency. We don't feel that this effort, from the time it was first discussed, was done in a manner that represents the skill and dedication of our board, our management, or our staff. While the original agenda item at San Rafael Sanitary District suggested there were 3 options, it became one option literally seconds after that meeting began. It almost seemed like that decision was made before the public meeting, but I'm not going to say that that's true. This is a bad deal. It's a bad deal for San Rafael. Pardon me, maybe a great deal for San Rafael. It's a bad deal for Corte Madera. It's a bad deal for Ross Valley. And I would point out that after Mayor Kate gave her presentation at Corte Madera, the Corte Madera attorney, Amy, immediately said, this is not a consolidation. So I want to make that very clear that what this plan is, and this is, I don't know if this is the last one or the first one or the 17th one. It's not in our best interest. It's not in our ratepayers' best interest. And I'd point out that in the copy we have in tonight's package, in one line it says, in order to ever end this contract, it would have to be a supermajority, meaning that San Rafael was giving themselves veto proof. But nowhere in any of the versions did it say there would be a supermajority to begin. So this is not people treating each other respectfully and in a collegiate manner. And so I'm going to ask if we have a motion on this.
We're giving direction to staff?
Point of information, President
Giving
Kelly,
direction.
Oh, are we going to ask Michael Colantuno to weigh in or no?
Michael?
or public comment?
Well, I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize for that. Public comment before we do anything. Is there any public that would like to comment on this issue? And thank you for that reminder. Yes, please step up. And anybody online wants to as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there. I have no skin in the game, just sort of interested in governance and how things work in Marin County, and I've been a lifelong resident. I sort of was coming here tonight to kind of find out what happened with the flooding, and it's sort of turned into a consolidation talk, which is great, which kind of leads me to maybe operationally these guys could talk about it, but with all the flooding and with what happened in Corte Madera, and I tried to go to CS2's meeting last night, but somehow it got canceled, to find out on their end what they thought and what you guys thought of, like, if potentially consolidation of both your services would have made some of this flooding not as traumatic or tragic as it was. I mean, it wasn't really tragic, but it was bad, obviously. So operationally, I don't know, I'd be curious to hear what you guys had to think of, if all your districts were consolidated, would that have eased some of the flooding and the results of the flooding? Just something like that.
I'll leave that to staff, but I would just say, I don't think there wasn't a lot of sewage flooding that was going on.
Right.
It was water flooding. It had a king tide and high rains and we're on the bay. So I think, but I'll let you answer that question.
And
Hmm?
and we don't manage the stormwater. We only manage the sewage. So I don't know if we've had, we'll find out.
So I guess the answer to that would be no, because we don't manage the stormwater.
And maybe if they could have done something to help, in Corte Madera or in Ross Valley or what have you, I don't know. But I do appreciate your comments on being so open to consolidation. If it's been brought up so much for eons that it probably is a good idea. And your comments were spot on, I think, is, what's the best for all the people, not just Ross Valley right now. And I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody on public online? Stephen?
Not who's raising their hand.
Thank you.
I read your letter of a couple of days ago, I guess it was. I think consolidation does make sense economically, but the way that it's being approached right now with a member of the JPA becoming, I don't know, does it intend to remain, San Rafael remain board member of CMSA, or by a contract are they getting out of it? What's the proposal sounds to me like a real nightmare for operations, for governance, even assuming that accountants can figure out the numbers in such a way that the indemnification can work. It's pretty amazing to me that somebody could figure out all the details. But let's say that they could. After that, they've done that. Would the governance continue to operate in such a way that it becomes fair both for Ross Valley and for Corte Madera? It just doesn't make sense to me.
You can answer that.
The way it works is that it isn't a consolidation. A consolidation gets rid of an agency. In this case, San Rafael stays in business. All of their duties are transferred to Central Marin. Their two board members on Central Marin remain there.
And remain on the Central and San Rafael Sanitary District boards.
And remain on the San Rafael Sand Board. And I agree with you, Doug, that it's a built-in conflict of interest.
Absolutely. And it doesn't matter whether they're appointed or they're elected. Their name tags at Central Marin Sanitary say their name, San Rafael Sanitary District. And that's the appointed and the elected. So it's no difference at all.
Sanitary District in San Rafael? I thought it was a department of the city.
We've got a separate sanitation district composed of the mayor, one councilman, and one county supervisor. It's an entirely separate district.
Yeah. Okay. Michael?
If I could just make one other very quick comment about what the earlier gentleman said. One of the things that I think consolidation, working together, does is, although, that may have been stormwater, maybe if we're all working together, that if there were things, and I know that this would be the case, if there were things that we could have done with our equipment, with our trucks to help out, we would have been there and done that. And maybe if we were all working as like one bigger agency, we could do more of that.
If I may, Director Borstein, on that theme, it turns out I had a conversation today. I was in the field with our repair crew, and and he, in reviewing our decision to consolidate our operations here at 1111 Anderson, as you know, 2 years ago, more or less, we moved from 3 or 4 different locations and consolidated into one. And he pointed out from his perspective as a supervisor in our agency, he is vastly more efficient and more effective to get things done quicker because he can just walk across the hall to talk to the O&M manager instead of emailing them or texting them or calling to make an appointment to take 5, 6, 7 minutes to get over there. These day-to-day realities working in this facility now have been light years of advancement as far as just taking advantage of those opportunities to be face to face and to settle and move on from issues that come up day to day. And he was more articulate than me. Okay. But the point there is we did a consolidation exercise, and it reinforces your point, Director Borstein. We're more effective, efficient, more of a team, getting things done more quickly. And I will give a report on the recent king tides and some examples of how this efficiency played out beneficially from a sewer system. So we can say on that micro level, it works. And we're very confident on a macro level of a consolidation of the 3 JPA member agencies and dissolution of the JPA. We would really enjoy a lot of efficiencies, and that would pass on to the ratepayers.
The reason consolidation was declined by San Rafael in 2008 is because we had some financial issues and we had some board issues and we had some management issues. That's all, if people need to keep bringing up things that came up 20 years ago, that's their issue, not ours. We've moved on. Okay. Michael, any points, comments?
No, I think the staff report has covered what's needed. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. We have the legal concerns that have been identified. Beyond that, I'm here as a resource.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Okay, somebody.
We're providing comments and direction to RVSD appointed commissioners. So do we need a formal motion? I feel that we've provided comments. So I would summarize, I think the board's will on the direction that we not approve this agreement between SRSD and CMSA. We vote against it should it come up at the February 10th meeting.
I'll second that.
So I want to clarify, the motion is that this board is directing.
Started out as not a motion, but I'm sure I move on behalf of RVSD that we direct our representatives on the CMSA board to oppose this item should it come before the board on February 10th.
And I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No oppose?
If I could add,
Go ahead.
maybe add one more thing, if appropriate. What Jason has been saying over there at CMSA for years is that our board should officially say to the other boards, this is something we're interested
Yep.
in and we're ready to go. So San Rafael, Corte Madera, let's have our boards get together in whatever way it should be done and start figuring out how to make this happen. How to make a full-on consolidation, dissolution of the entire JPA, that Central Marin Sanitation Agency would go away. The whole thing would go away and it would become probably Central Marin Sanitation District.
3 districts would go away.
Microphone's off, Mike, Tom.
Sorry. The JPA would go away, 3 districts would go away, and we'd wind up with 1 district.
For the whole thing, including treatment and collection.
Right.
Yes.
That'd make the most sense, absolutely, and I'm in favor of that 100%.
And we would, I imagine, maintain a manager of the treatment plant, a manager,
For the time being.
Yeah, somebody at the top of each one of the existing entities such that, we're not saying we think we can manage the treatment plant.
No,
In the same way
Not-
that we don't
We don't do
think
that for a living.
Not in any way,
treatment
shape, or
plant
form.
manager can manage a collection system.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's stay in our lane.
Absolutely. Well, and just everybody play to your strengths, right? Like
Yep.
do what you've been doing successfully. Don't, suddenly decide you can.
Between CMSA and RVSD,
Microphone, Tom. No, Michael.
between CMSA and RVSD, as it is now, we have the facilities to do such a consolidation.
And I think the key to a consolidation is to do whatever we can to cut out this is my area, this is your area. We have the boards that work well are 5-member boards, elected either at large or in districts, but not appoint 2 members from San Rafael and 2 members from Ross. That just perpetuates the
And
problem. Have 5 elected board
Well, I'd
members.
remind you that we had 3 members of that board, Central Marin, and we gave up 1. And the reason we gave up, it was inappropriate, wasn't in line with how the agreement of that 3rd board member was. But we gave up that seat and we gave up that vote in the hopes of gaining some goodwill. And man, that never happened. It was the reverse. It was like, oh, wow. Okay, now.
the 3rd seat was appointed by the City Council of Larkspur, right?
But that was not the agreement that we had with the city of Larkspur when they became part of us. So that was what happened. But at any rate,
It is
that's
what
water
it
under the
is.
bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So San Rafael, here we are.
That's right.
well, and one last thing I will say is, remembering walking the RVSD district when I first ran for office and ending up being in Corte Madera at times. And now we've settled out those lines, but then also up by the Rafael Racquet Club, there's an area up Forbes and where they don't know, they used to not know whether their sewage was flowing down to San Rafael or flowing down to RVSD. So anyway, our point is our districts are all like enmeshed in some ways already. So I think that's a great idea.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to move on to item number 7, public comment. Is anyone wishing to address the board of directors within the district's jurisdiction, but not on the
There was
posted?
no vote for the motion.
Yes, there was.
A vote? I don't have a vote on record.
There was.
We all
He made
said
a
aye.
motion. He made a second. I said all in favor. Everybody said aye. I said all opposed. Nobody said no. Let's do it again. Can we have a vote on that motion that you made the motion, you seconded it? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, so now we're doing it twice. All right. Item number 7, anyone wishing to address the board of directors on matters within the district's jurisdiction, but not on the post agenda, may do so. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The board may not take action or discuss items not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements or questions by a member of the public. The board president may refer any matter to staff for further follow-up or elect to have the matter placed on agenda for a future meeting. Do we have any open public comment? Seeing none in the room, any on the phone, on the Zoom? Seeing none on the Zoom, I will move on to number 8, committee and representative report out. And so,
Doug, I have a question.
okay,
Did you say for future agenda items just then?
I
You're
said
talking pretty fast.
the board president may refer any matter to staff for further follow-up or to elect to have the matter
Public
placed on the
comment.
future. agenda.
Okay, sorry.
under
No,
public
comment.
it's not me.
Okay, finance committee?
Okay, Finance Committee, Doug and I met yesterday. We reviewed the mid-year financial report and we're in excellent financial condition. And interestingly enough, all our expenses are below those budgeted, slightly below, but close to it, except the treatment, which is billed, just according to road, but we're close on that too. And it's as expected. So all expenses are below and all revenues are slightly above projections. And our reserves are funded and we're in excellent financial conditions. We also reviewed a lateral replacement loan, and that's on the board agenda. And it's a tremendous benefit for our district to help this landowner.
Tom, you're turning on and off your mic
Oh,
when
I'm
your hand
sorry.
is right there.
Messing
Yeah.
with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you hear that we reviewed a lateral replacement loan?
Now I did.
And it's a great benefit for our district and for that person to lend him some money at fairly low interest rates and get a problem sewer repaired at mostly his expense. That was it.
Okay, thank you very much. North Bay Watershed?
No meeting.
Thank you very much. Central Marin Sanitation District? Michael or?
Sure. You know, it was a long time ago now, back in December. It was back in December 9th was the last meeting. And somehow, regardless of everything else that's going on, they approved another year's lease to the Marin Airporter to keep their buses there. So I don't know. We have yet to hear about the treatment of the nutrient and where is it going to go, and what are we going to do with the buses because they signed on for another year now. So I think that'll be interesting. But that went through. We did the ACFR and the PAFR reports, just like what we get, and you know, they do a nice job over there with that stuff, and so that was nice. Maybe Tom will want to talk about the fiscal year 26 debt issuance, because we're talking about trying to raise about 8.5 million in revenue. And other than that, it was pretty straightforward.
Well, I want to talk about the GM salary review.
Was that was in closed session, and I don't think they reported out.
No, we pulled it off of the consent calendar.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about pulling it off the consent calendar.
Okay, you.
So it was the general manager's annual review, and we pointed out that it cannot be on the consent calendar, so we pulled it from the consent calendar. And I think that for years, the Central Marin has been doing it in closed session, and maybe just reporting in the consent calendar, we did it. But we pulled it, and in accordance with state law that you have to talk about it in a session. We made 3 recommendations to the general manager's contract. One was a work item suggestion that we asked that the general manager attend the JPA managers meetings. He's not doing that now, and we think that's very important to keep the managers together and informed. We also recommended that you approve the general manager's bonus. Now, he receives a salary, and if he does excellent work, he gets a 5% bonus, but that should be approved by a supermajority vote, which would give the big agencies a chance to override if his work isn't up to snuff. We also have a recommendation that's pretty standard throughout the state, and that is that you tie the general manager's severance pay to a general release. So when a general manager leaves, he gets a severance pay, and the point of that is so that he won't sue the district. You know, the way it is now, and I'm not saying he will, but the way it is now, and this happens throughout the state because we heard about it through CSRMA. That's the reason for severance pay, is so that you can avoid a lawsuit. So we made a motion for Michael.
That's right.
Made a motion, and I seconded it, and we voted yes, and the other 3 board members.
What was the reason for that?
We voted yes.
What was the reason for voting no?
No, with no discussion. There was
No discussion. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. With that, CMSA ad hoc, JPA, Tom.
Well, we had the ad hoc committee without the general manager and without the CMSA council, and we had a contract that San Rafael San had commented on, and working with, I believe, Sani too, but our council wasn't involved in it. And so there was a big rush to accept these changes, including the supermajority vote to dissolve the JPA, and that reasonable language. And, it turns out that we've been working on this contract now for over a year, well, almost a year and a half or so. In fact, it is over a year and a half. And just today, we've received revisions, and they're hard to tell what they impact. So I can't. I think that the approval is scheduled for February 10, but we'll probably get the recommended changes, by the way, keep coming from San Rafael's attorney. And so, they take time to look at what is the impact of them. So,
Is that Carrie at County Council? Is that who San Rafael's attorney is?
yeah, she's a county deputy county council. Anyway, that's what happened at our staff. We were leaderless on how to review the contract, and we didn't have no legal advice at all, except for Michael piping up every now and then.
Well, that's good that Michael did that.
Yeah, it was good he was there.
Okay, thank you. Verbal report from the general manager, Steve?
Thanks, President Kelly and members of the board. I have 3 items to report on, and the first 2 are pretty great news. We just learned this week that Fitch has upgraded Ross Valley Sanitary District's rating from AA up to AA plus.
That's like the 5th change.
That meets a business plan priority, in our strategic
is.
plan
Yes, it was.
to on the road to AAA, as Felicia said. When we got this, we're on the road, and it's been a long haul.
When I started here, we were A rated, then we went to A plus, AA minus, AA, and now we're AA plus. That's however many upgrades that is.
Yep. It's a turnaround.
Yeah. And look, thank you, and really great leadership and guidance from the board on, and it's been a rewarding experience getting to the pay as you go model on and still producing a lot of results out there that are measurable and continue to show that it's worth the effort, at all scales. Thank you. And now my second item is another pleasant announcement. I just got the email. It's stated today, right? From, David Patzer, DKF Solutions. He runs the CSRMA technical meeting, each CASA conference. And so this is from him to me today. Steve and team, congratulations on being awarded the CSRMA Workers' Compensation Excellence Award for 2025.
Yay.
And this is an exciting award to receive. I want to give credit to Christina Winnicky, our board clerk, who's off camera, but she's right over there.
Wait, now that comes with a reduction in insurance
Yes,
costs.
I'm going to give you some
Sorry.
description of what it means. But Christina was pivotal, along with Christina Velazquez and Josh Hill, who is an O&M superintendent. That team of 3 put together a 54 megabyte file. Yeah, I think it's over almost 400 pages of references, satisfying 16 separate criteria. And so it's a pretty monumental effort to pull all this information together. I think Christina was telling me it was a 3-month effort, 5 month, 3 months, or 3 months. Yeah. In the cracks of time doing all the other things we do, but this team really delivered. To put this in context, not everyone does this every year and putting together such an effort, but I think you're precluded from doing it 2 years in a row, for instance. But the other agencies in the state that received this recognition were Fairfield Sassoon Sewer District and Mountain View Sanitary District from Martinez. So the 3 of us receive a $50,000 award prize, which is split between the 3 agencies and is proportional to the number of employees. And so the actual cash award to employees range between $50 and a maximum of $499 depending on how that shakes out. Because if you only had 10 employees, you wouldn't give $5,000 to each employee, for instance. So
Can you tell me, wait, what did we do to get this? Are you getting there?
well, yeah, it's a rigorous application. It requires multi-departmental collaboration, and there are a number of different criteria that we have to satisfy in terms of having a safety committee,
Okay.
procedure, as standard operation procedures. There's a long list. I mean, Christina probably has it in the top of her mind right now. Is there anything else you want to point out, like some? Yeah, and so there weren't necessarily specific bullet like checklists, but it's a matter of the package of programs that we have. So you might remember in the latest iteration of the MOU and the salary and benefits, we have things like the preventive care cash award, for getting flu shots and that sort of thing. It's all a package of preventive actions that prevent workers' compensation injuries. Having ergonomic reviews every year, right? That's a workers' comp issue with carpal tunnel and all the different ergonomic maladies from office work. So it's not just field work. So it was a comprehensive package. Also, don't want to overlook that we were awarded, quote unquote, the 2026 Employment Practices Liability EPL deductible reduction. What this means is that our deductible for employment practices claims is reduced from $50,000 to $25,000. So this is something we'll apply for separately annually. But in the case of an employment practices issue, our deductible has been reduced thanks to the diligent work of our administrative staff. And then, the workers' comp being a partnership with operations, Paul's group. So we're going to get a wall plaque. Very exciting. We're starting to run out of room. Joking. We can always put more plaques. Yeah, I think that's it for those details. Any other questions?
No, it's excellent. Excellent.
So it's nice, I'm just really pleased with staff and their effort to diversify the areas that we're recognized in as an organization. And so this is another new award for Ross Valley Sanitary District in an important subject area, safety of our workers. Excellent. Okay. So, and then my third item actually relates to what the gentleman from in public comment brought up, the King Tides New Year's event. It was a significant effort from our staff. We met before the holidays, seeing some weather on the horizon and Christmas as well, right? But we made sure our on-call staff were set up as they always are. But to have volunteers at the ready, because calling someone on Christmas or New Year's when it's happening as opposed to lining them up,
right,
is a big difference. And so Paul's all on top of that with his crews. We were ready for the Christmas storms. We did fine. And then New Year's came along, not only storms, but king tides on top of them. And we did have sewer spills. They occurred over the period of January 1st to January 6th, Tuesday. Is that right, Paul? Yeah, it was just little bits at that point, just sort of a tailing off, because the way the tide cycle works, it sort of peaks at a point and then kind of tails off. But there's some good news here. I want to highlight, and we'll talk about it maybe more next month when we give you more of a report, but there's really 4 areas I'm really satisfied with staff's performance on. Number 1, preparation. We were prepared for this. We saw some king tide issues last year. We knew it was coming, and we had the vehicles and the personnel ready to go, and how to operate when we were out there. Number 2, response. We responded before the first spill started. We were there. It happened, but we were on site because of the smart covers. And our response in preparation for knowing that it was going to recur because of the tidal cycle. Our documentation reporting met all state deadlines and expectations. And 4th, that was the 3rd. And then the 4th is the corrective actions. So, we think that on that topic, the vehicle and personal stages, worked really well. And we learned some things about that area where the spills occurred. So the king tides affected in our district really was the Riviera Circle area, which is known as the Larkspur Marina. And as you know, the sewers there are very deep. There's a story I've told you before where they laid the sewers for that development first. And they realized that the finished elevations were too low, and so they piled on more fill. So the sewers are uncharacteristically deep in that area, and so it required us to put in lift stations back in the 50s and the 60s. And so what happened with the king tides is when the water elevations got to a certain level, they started to really surcharge our sewer system, so that at one of the pump stations where we pump into the downstream sewer was too full to receive the flow. And so we got overflow at the rod hole at that pump station. That was for the first 2 days. For the third day, so that was January 1st and 2nd. The third day, the water came in so heavy, it overwhelmed and flooded us. And the appearance point was downstream at lift station 33 down the street. So that's where those spills occurred, and they were larger. The first day we were there, saw that the smart covers told us the water levels were increasing. We mobilized and got the trucks in place, and were able to get some of the overflow over to pump station 14 using back-on trucks, but we still lost a couple thousand gallons. Not a huge spill, but due to the king tides. Second day, we knew it was coming. We actually were pumping down ahead of time, and we saved 13,500 gallons from spilling. But eventually nature caught up with us, and we lost a couple of thousand gallons then. 6,000 gallons. So it was kind of building on us. And then that third day, that water came in really heavy, and we parked the VACCON at the location of overflow, consistently pumped out waters, and probably that was several thousand gallons. Yeah, right. 29 loads of the truck. So a lot of avoided spill, but we still had thousands of gallons that we lost there. We were challenged there too because the drainage wasn't working properly at the lagoon, which is in the middle of the houses. And so instead of kind of tailing off and that being the end of it, we saw an ongoing surcharge of the system due to a gate. There was a construction project going on of a bulkhead for the houses in that area. They had mitigation there for fish screens and things like that they didn't disable before the storms. So there was an added amount of flooding in that neighborhood due to the operation of the lagoon gate, and that affected the volume of our spill. So that was one of the lessons learned was we need to work out at the HOA and the city who's responsible for the lagoon drainage gate structure. And we're here to help. We actually were. We gave them a valve key so they could operate it because we were out there. And I think, what the residents saw was they saw our trucks out there working hard, and they were grateful, that we were out there. They were still concerned they were getting flooded out, but Paul and his crews communicated to the residents that that's not our job to do the drainage. We're working hard to make sure the sewage doesn't get into these waters. And so, but it really reflected well on us, all the hard work. People showed up, it was a good plan for personnel. They showed up. They were responsive and courteous to our partners and to the neighbors. And we accomplished a lot as far as volume of sewage that didn't get spilled. In the long term, we do have plans. We already have a capital improvement program with these projects already in it. We're going to increase the force main capacity of that system in 2027 because right now it's a bit of a bottleneck. If we would have had more capacity, we probably would have spilled less or maybe spilled nothing. And then also the following year, 27-28, we have a gravity sewer improvement project that will raise those sewers up to the appropriate elevations and might result in removal as many as 4 pump stations. Wow. If we design it right, and that'll be great. Okay. So that'll rectify an error of the distant past in terms of the infrastructure that was installed back in the 50s and the 60s. So we're excited to do that work and already had it planned. Had we already built it, we might have had no spills. I mean, that would be the goal. So that's a long-term corrective action. I hope that's all nodding. I didn't misspeak or misquote or some of those facts, but I'm very proud of the operations staff of being there in inclement weather over the holidays, right? Not being with their families, but being here for the ratepayers and for our organization. And so really thank them deeply and congratulate them on outstanding performance.
Excellent. Thank you. Great report. Verbal reports by board members. Requests for future agenda items. Okay, so I'm going to make a little bit of a verbal report.
I have an item.
Okay. Pam?
So this is a little early, but the Canyon Road Assessment District will be paid off September 2026. I'm just trying to find when it started. Was it back in 2008?
It's back in 13B.
Yeah, there's just a lot of numbers. But anyway, I think we could really do something to help them. They paid it off on time. I didn't see any delinquency.
There was a
Oh.
little bit.
There are actually.
There
and-
are, but why don't you take those out?
Okay. I can give a full report on that during the informational items, or I can speak to it now at the board's preference.
Sure. Go ahead.
I'm just hoping we can go to the town of Fairfax
Hmm.
at one of their board meetings and do a little rah-rah thing and have some cake, and
That's a really nice idea.
they need this
A little
too.
celebration.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the date was 2006. It was a 20-year
Yeah.
bond.
Yeah. Thank you,
Do they all
Steve.
know that it's the last year?
I run into them here and there. Some of them do and some of them don't.
Maybe we should write them, there's only 29 of them.
Yeah, we talked about that as well, sending out a letter.
Yeah.
Jeff Bolt and his wife Linda Bolt were the original leaders, and they live on Canyon. So yeah, it's really nice to see how a neighborhood worked this out, because occasionally I still hear complaints about septic, and I try to explain to them what some other people have done, and then they kind of run away. Should we try and do something again? Send a letter out to the politicians there, or somebody,
With regards to the sewer to septic
yeah.
sewer to septic, huh? Not that direction. Septic to sewer.
Because we only have one. We
conversions.
still only have one.
We still only have one.
Yeah.
So it's noted that the district could make some additional public outreach in that regard.
That would be great. That's all I have.
Okay. I'm going to report out that the assistant general manager, myself, Mike Bornstein and Tom Gaffney went to the CASA event. I don't know what everybody else went to. Some of them we shared. I did go to the director's track on understanding and navigating the Brown Act and conflict of interest, because the Brown Act has some new changes. So we discussed that at the meeting, and we all got this. So that was an interesting one. Track 2. I went to Cutting Red Tape, the Future of Federal Deregulation and Permitting Reform. And then that was that day. Hang on, let me see how do I get to the next day? I got to bring it back up. Thursday, we had breakfast. We had a welcome address, and then shaping the water narrative. That was an address on how to talk to the public about some of the things we're doing. So that was very important. Community-based social marketing was next. And then agency funding and panel financing.
I went to that.
I went to the communications. I didn't go to the communications. What did I do? I'm not sure what I did then. And then the next day, I was got to bring that up. That was Friday. Well, Friday was the closing session. So that was that. It was good. And I thought it was a very good conference.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot out of it, and I met some very good people. And that's one of the things that's good about those conferences is you meet your colleagues from across, not just California, but, I met somebody from Pittsburgh.
I went to the financing session, and it was very interesting. They were discussing a lot of really complicated financing plans that were not nearly as good as the way we do it, in my opinion, and a lot more costly than what we do. So, but I sucked it all in, and it was interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the consent calendar. Matters listed on this item are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions. Therefore, the motion, second, and vote will also be applicable to the resolutions. Does anybody in the public or does anybody on the dais here wish to pull anything? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All any opposed? None. Okay. So then we'll move on to number 13, informational items, the monthly operations and metrics report. Paul?
Paul, please give the update. Thank you.
Yep. Good evening, President Kelly, distinguished board, council, and staff. Thank you for your time this evening. A lot of good work out there in the month of December. As you know, we have a lot of newer staff, so we're running everybody through a lot of training, making sure they're up to snuff with all the safety practices. And in the month of December, we sent all the new staff to Napa to a CWA sponsored traffic control training, a full day, 8-hour training. It was an introduction into the basic principles in temporary work zone traffic control and traffic control flagging. It was taught by a professional from Caltrans, which was really nice because they do a lot of the high speed. And it instructed the students on the fundamentals of traffic control in accordance with California manual and uniform traffic control devices. And ensures staff are aware of the state requirements, ensure smooth traffic path of travel for vehicles, and the safety of our staff. And it gets really important, you know, Sir Francis Drake and a lot of these busier streets, the county and some other towns, sometimes when we're doing some traffic control, they see it backing up, it starts to get a little contentious sometimes. So we really want to work on that and make sure we get our flow of traffic correct and that we're not backing up city streets and whatnot, and, you know, school zones. And so very important training. And to one thing, speaking back to what Steve was talking about over that last New Year's weekend, all the new staff, just so you guys know, they all showed up and helped. We're ready to go. Spent the night out there even. We had guys stay 24 hours. We're sitting there monitoring and spending the night overnight. So I just want to let you know the new staff members are doing really well and are contributing to the district in a really high rate and really looking to get out there and help us. So it was really good to see. The pump station crew, pump station 15 at Kentfield. We partnered with Peterson Power to do a full service. I think we may have talked about this a couple months ago where they went through and checked the full generator, make sure it's ready to run and all that. Well, through that initial service, we found the water pump leaking. The cooling water pump. So we brought them back. We replaced the water pump, and then we also did a full load test on that generator. So we brought in units to crank it up to its max capacity and ran it for 4 hours at max capacity, that generator, to make sure it can handle that station or whatever we throw at it. So we're really working through these stations to make sure that our reliability is there. And if anything ever does happen, at least we know, we have it documented that we monitored it, we tested it, we did the service, and we have all that documented in that asset. So we know we're taking the steps to make sure we're as reliable as we can. And then and we also did a fuel polishing at that station. We used a fuel system with multiple filters, and it sucks the fuel out, runs it through the filters, takes out water, debris, and pumps it right back into the tank to make sure we don't get any fouling or any of that stuff on any of the generators. We did that to all the other major as well, 13, 12, all the big generators.
Yeah, that extra care on 15 can't be overstated, because 15, you know, like on board packet 139, we always make our pretty map, you know, that reminds you that pump station 15 is often 2/3 of the flow of the
Right.
whole district. So the extra care of that giant engine making sure it's ready to go if there's a power outage. Really everything depends on pumping that water,
Yeah.
especially in wet season.
I'm sure you'll appreciate that it
I was going
runs.
to say on
Mary.
behalf of Stadium Way, thank you very much.
Line maintenance staff, we keep talking about the data risk model that we developed using AI and smart learning. It's taking the data from debris loading that the flushing and line maintenance crews are bringing in, and it brings in all this data, and we can theorize which lines may fail sooner than later. So looking at it and doing some review, we found the district has a lot of older 4-inch cast iron pipes. And so we started looking into the schedule as we're still looking at our wholesale flushing schedule to make sure we're cleaning pipes properly and whatnot. And we found that some of the 4-inch cast irons, some were cleaned on a 1 year, some were on a 2, and there were even some 4-inch lines that were on a 3-year cycle. And that's became kind of concerning because they do scale up, they hold debris, they can be problematic. So what we did is we did a wholesale change. We went through, we reevaluated and made them all a 2-year cycle so that we can make sure we're maintaining them properly. And then just this last week, we were actually right up here off of Via La Combre, I believe it was, Steve, the project we were talking about earlier. And we were catching up because this 4-inch line was on a 3-year cycle. And when we were cleaning it, we noticed that water sprayed up out of the ground. So we found a defect automatically just by going out and looking at these pipes and doing a preemptive clean where we would have had a blockage or a failure there. So we've already caught one issue with that. And I'm working with Phil and Steve and engineering to look to get, we're going to do an immediate quick fix. And then we're going to go in there and possibly try to rehabilitate that system. So it showed us some really good information. So we're going to continue to use it and learn from it and be the best system we can.
Yeah, if I may, the data risk model you referred to, Patrick Filippelli has helped develop. And, we have a wealth of data in our system. This is what we got an award for, is using data to make decisions. When CASA recognized that we're using our computerized system. And this is a great example because we have a wealth of data that's associated with spill events, right? So we have pre-spill data in terms of how much debris was removed from that line, the different line cleaning events, what the condition of the pipe is, is it a root issue? Is it a debris issue? There's slope, age, diameter, which Paul pointed out, 4-inch diameter is not adequate for a public sewer. But we have a lot of it, about 12% of our system is 4-inch diameter. We're going to get rid of it over time. But that, so all those factors we can plug into an AI type model to say, what were the factors that preceded this spill? And we have, unfortunately, a lot of spills over our history, but that's a wealth of data to help predict the next spill. Okay. So that's what Patrick's been up to try to refine what we started with our IAMP back in 2021. We have a risk model with that. We've set that aside because now we've dug deeper into our spill related data and things like slope, upstream number of private laterals, upstream length of pipe, all these factors that we can put into a model. So we're doing the machine learning, we're doing the AI to help inform Paul where the priorities are and try to predict the next spill. It's not perfect, but because we had a spill this year that wasn't predicted. But we've, this site here that we're talking about on Via La Cumbre, it did come up in the model. We have scores for every pipe in our system, and we have them color coded. If they're higher percentile of risk of spill, they're red, and that goes orange, yellow, green. And so we have a map we can show you on our phone. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you, Steve. And then the repair crew is really busting out the work. They got 35 point repairs in December and 15 manhole rehabilitations. And condition assessment is still out there doing their good work. They found 2 more lateral connections that were failing. We dye tested. One on West Baltimore in Larkspur and the other on Indian Rock Court in San Anselmo. We've already been talking to the homeowners and working to get those deficiencies repaired. And then the one good note, December was a no spill month.
We'll talk about January next month.
Yes,
Let's move on.
please.
Let's talk about December now.
I also on board packet 143, our recycle water use is up this year. We've been at about 300,000 gallons a year or so last few years. And at the mid-year point, we are at 210,000. So we're on pace to exceed 400,000 gallons of recycled water this year, which is a real uptick. So I want to thank Paul and his crews and their dedication to being creative and thinking of ways we can use more recycled water for sewer cleaning.
You know, I'd also like to point out that while we have spills and spills are inevitable in sewer districts, the number of spills and especially the amount of spills has dropped drastically in the last 15 years because we've been doing the work. You put $100 million in the ground, not everybody sees it, but it's making changes. So I'm proud of the team.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, the final item tonight is the NBS annual reports. Is that Steve or Felicia?
Yeah. This is a very it's a great report we get from MBS every year, and it's sort of end of the calendar year. And I want to just let board members know this is a resource. So anytime you have general questions like, oh, how many loans do we have out there? How many service connections do we have in our district? How many pay the Larkspur rate? How many pay the Ross Valley rate? It's all here, and it's on every January board meeting. And so if you ever have those basic questions about some of the finances of our district or our programs, and then of course, as board member Meg's pointed out, Canyon Road Assessment District is in there too, which is coming to an end this year, this calendar year. So with that, I just wanted to remind the board members, this is just a wealth of information that MBS keeps for us, and it's a one-stop shop for data on our financial information. And with that, Felicia.
Thank you, Steve. And so since the Canyon Road, so tonight's item, there are 3 separate reports, which I'll go through briefly. And right to your point and Director Meg's point earlier, there will be 2 next January because Canyon Road will be retired. So the first report is just an overview of all of the district service area levies, our service charges. This report, as Steve mentioned, categorizes the Ross Valley sewer service charges, the Larkspur sewer service charges, and then the total sewer service charges for the entire service area. The next, it also talks a little bit about the assistance program, which is on board packet page 158. The final billing detail report is not printed because that's several hundred pages of actually every single parcel in the district and the amount that's levied on that parcel. The next report is the Canyon Road Assessment District report, which starts on page 161, excuse me. And as we've already discussed, that levy was initiated in 2006. It was a 20-year term, retiring in September of 2026. There are 2 delinquencies, 2 separate parcels. The cure for that actually is foreclosure, which seems a little drastic. And yet, because the district's on a teeter plan, our hands are tied to how the delinquencies are processed. So I am working with NBS on noticing those 2 property owners on the delinquencies. So friendly letter first, reminder, maybe just kind of forgot your property tax bill, got lost in the shuffle or whatever it is, but we'll definitely be reaching out on a, sort of friendly basis first. And I'll keep the board updated if there's any unfortunate developments that need to be shared, because we really would like to go to the whole, the whole of the group and congratulate them on a successful.
It's only
special
$2,500.
district. It's not very much money, and yet, like I said, because it's on the teeter plan, our hands are tied as to how we process the delinquencies. So hopefully we don't own any homes in Fairfax as a result of this.
So we will get the money
Yes,
to retire all the bonds.
right.
Okay, and then it goes on the teeter plan.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. And lastly, the lateral replacement and septic to sewer conversion program, which is on board packet 179. And this, as you know, Steve pointed out, there's a lot of information that, you might be interested. How many loans does the district have outstanding? To date, there are 98 loans. The board packet pages 180 and 181 actually details the program terms for these loans, which is a nice piece of information. If anybody in your, of your constituents has questions about, what would be the loan terms, you could refer back to here. The following pages on 184 and 185 are actually the individual loans that are outstanding. Total again, 96. One of them is a septic to sewer and one is a PSX. The total amount owed to the district is approximately 1.1 million, and the installment total is 133,000. So annually. So you can see that's a little bit in small print on those last two pages. But again, a lot of information and a very good report by NBS again this year. And that's all I have.
Can I assume if a home sells, then the loan has to be paid off at the
That's right.
at the sale?
Exactly right.
Okay, perfect. That's a very good report. It's really interesting. Okay, anything else? With that, I'm adjourning the meeting. The next regular meeting will be on February 18th, 2026 at 5 p.m. in this very room. Thank you all.